Hello, everyone, and welcome to the CircuitPython Weekly for October 28th, 2019. I'm Katney, and I'm sponsored by Adafruit to work on CircuitPython. CircuitPython is a version of Python that runs on microcontrollers, which are tiny computers. It opens up the opportunity to be able to use Python with all sorts of hardware, and it's great for beginners, it's great for learning, and so we've put a lot of effort into making that be the case so you can introduce people to both programming and electronics at the same time, and it can be a lot of fun. This meeting is held every Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. If it's ever on different days, we'll let you know. This meeting is recorded. So we record the audio and we record the Discord text chat. If you're listening to this later and you're not on Discord, please join us at adafru.it/Discord. We're also there all week. So if you have any questions, want to chat, come check it out. And if ever there are changes, we will let you know in the CircuitPython channel, often during US holidays. We switch what day of the week the meeting is on, but for the most part, it's on Mondays. CircuitPython development is sponsored by Adafruit, so please support them by purchasing hardware at adafruit.com. This video of the meeting will be posted to YouTube, and the audio is posted to podcast services. So if you are into podcasts rather than video, it is available there. And if you find that it's not on your favorite podcast service, please let us know so we can get that fixed up. This meeting is held in 5 parts. The first part is community news, where we talk about just Python on hardware in the community and what's going on with that. The second part is state of CircuitPython and the libraries, which is a statistical overview of the entire project. It gives us just sort of a numbers view, so outside of what's actually going on, to give a feel of the health of the project. We talk about the project overall, and then we talk separately about the core and the libraries. The third section is Hug Reports. Hug Reports is a chance to call people out for being awesome. It is a round robin setup where I will start and we go down the list alphabetically. If you are lurking, please let us know. We welcome lurkers. And if you are text only, you can post to the notes document or to the text chat, and we will read it off as we get to you. So if you don't have a microphone or you just don't want your voice recorded, that's totally fine. You can still participate. And then the fourth section is status updates, which is a sort of a sync up on what everyone's been up to for the last week since the last meeting and what everyone will be up to for the next week until the next meeting. Take a couple minutes, talk about what you've been doing. We get all kinds of updates, including remodeling, house remodeling, that sort of thing. We love to know what you're up to as a member of our community, so it doesn't have to be CircuitPython related if you just want to share something that you are working on. And the last section we lovingly call In the Weeds, which is a space for more long-form discussions. So if there's something that doesn't really fit into status updates, you can discuss it in the weeds, or if you have questions or something that just doesn't make sense for any other section, In the Weeds is the place for it. If you have an In the Weeds topic, please post it to the CircuitPython text channel or post it in the notes so that we are not waiting at that point for people to come up with stuff. And sometimes we don't end up with any In the Weeds topics, and that's totally fine. So with that, I will get to where I need to be in the notes, and I will hand it over to Phil for community news.
All right. Thank you, Katney.
You're welcome.
Okay, first up, we got some new boards that support CircuitPython. So CircuitPython's taking us away to Sony Spresence. I think the pronunciation is Spresence, like presence. We'll find out. But it's a Sony board that started out with Arduino and a pretty intense SDK and toolchain to get it going. But now it supports CircuitPython. So check that out. But that's not all with boards. Over the weekend, we made sure that CircuitPython works on the Arduino Nano 33 BLE. So if you have one of those and you're like, hey, want to run some CircuitPython on it, now you can. Both those are in circuitpython.org/downloads. We are now up to 83 or 84 boards. We might be at 100 by the end of the year. All month long, we have a post a day. Almost done with this because there's only a few more days in the month. And one of the cool companies we featured was Electronic Cats. And we covered them not just because of cats, although it was really helpful, but they do open source hardware, and they are one of the latest companies that support CircuitPython on their boards. One of my favorite boards that they have, it's called Meow Meow, but I call it Meowy Meowy because it just sounds more fun to me. And it is a like Makey like device that you can put alligator clips on and do physical computing, and it works with CircuitPython. So check that out. They also have this cool infograph that they made for Open Hardware Month. Speaking of Open Hardware Month and more boards, SparkFun, I think this is their 5th board that they now have that supports CircuitPython. So that's exciting for us to see yet another company in the electronic space and the open hardware space supporting CircuitPython. It's kind of one of the default things that you look for with a board now, or at least a lot of people are. So check that out. And I should also put in the link to the Meow Meowy. That's kind of fun. Also, if you want to read the latest issue of Hackspace, issue 24, there's an article about getting LED matrix modules working with CircuitPython. There's tons of great articles in it, but you can download this for free, and you can specifically read about CircuitPython in Hackspace this month. Next up, I thought this was neat. This is from Arturo, only because sometimes people say the things that you want to hear. And this is one of the neat bits of feedback that we keep hearing and what we think about CircuitPython. But the person who just wanted to put something together really fast, I got one of Arturo's Serpente boards, and that has CircuitPython on it. And they said it's crazy slick for prototyping, essentially what I actually want from Arduino. And to translate this, so what I think they really mean is the promise of a lot of electronics is like, how can I do something in like 5 to 10 minutes that should be really easy, that should only take 5 to 10 minutes. And it was neat to watch them put this together and then, you know, tell their friends and community like, hey, this is how I'm using this, and I spent more time on the idea and being able to make something than downloading software and figuring out like all the C code and stuff like that. So I thought that was kind of cool. And also the Serpente is a neat board. We stock it, and it's also on Tindy. Or sorry, Crudsupply. I think it was also on Tindy too. Next up, you can hit the translate button on this. There's a lot of efforts in France, including Python being the national programming language now, for teaching Python in schools. And I think we'll hear a lot about that. All the calculators that French students have, they have to have a Python feature in it. So there was a TI calculator that has a variant of CircuitPython on it. There's a bunch that have MicroPython variants. But this is interesting because they probably historically used Arduino. And this particular article says teaching Python with electronics is an alternative to some of the past classwork they need to do because the emphasis is on Python. So now they can maybe even use the electronics they have, since a lot of the stuff, at least from Adafruit, runs Arduino or CircuitPython. So check that out. And then tomorrow, for folks that are interested in this, we have the buy one, give one. It's back at 11 a.m. tomorrow. DigiKey is helping out with this. This is a partnership, DigiKey, Adafruit, and Black Girls Code. They're our launch partner. If someone buys a Circuit Playground, we send one to the organization that we partner up with. First up is Black Girls Code. I'm reaching out to 4-H and Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, and a ton of other nonprofits where people who are just going to buy a Circuit Playground Express on our site anyways, one just goes to a cool group with some deserving kids to learn some CircuitPython maybe. And then last up, The draft for the newsletter is still available if you want to put any news in it. I have a little bit more work to do, but you can sign up on adafruitdaily.com, and tomorrow it goes out at 11 a.m.-ish Eastern time. And that was the community news for the week.
Thanks, Phil.
Thank you, Gadi.
All right. Next up is the state of CircuitPython and the libraries. This is a statistical overview of the entire project. It gives us an idea of what's going on by the numbers versus what's going on by content, which we will discuss later. So first of all, let's talk about the project overall. We had what I'm just going to call a record 218 pull requests merged. We did a blanket update to all the readmes on all the libraries, and that is what contributed to that number. So we had 17 authors, including some new people: VK Halem, EDS Park, Senuros, Shalmo, Boo13 are names that I don't recognize. Welcome, and thank you so much for your contributions. We love to see new people. I don't know whether or not they came in through the Hacktoberfest stuff or whether they're just joining us to join us, but we are super happy to have you. And we had 10 reviewers, which is also pretty high, and that's great because without reviewing, obviously we just have PRs that languish. So it's excellent to see so many people being involved in reviewing. Thank you to everyone there. We had 13 issues closed by 9 people and 9 opened by 7 people, so we are net down overall, which is good. And we assigned the Hacktoberfest label to 1 issue, which means there was 1 issue that was created that is considered a good first issue, and therefore was assigned the Hacktoberfest label as well. So overall, we're still working towards updating the BLE API to be what we want it to be. There's a lot to it, so it's taking a bit of time, but expect to see some updates coming from that fairly soon, and potentially a new 5.0 alpha release sometime in the next couple weeks. Again, please download it and test it. The best thing you can do is just download the alpha and run your projects that you already have on it and report back to us if you run into any problems. And that with the libraries, we updated every README to remove some confusing wording, so that should be clearer now if you're dealing with the library repositories directly. The READMEs should all be a little bit clearer on what to do with the library itself. And we're working towards adding more libraries as we add more boards and adding features to the current ones. There's been a lot of updates going on there, and that's always excellent to see. So with the core, we had 8 pull requests merged, and by 6 authors, including EDS Park, which is a name I don't recognize. So thank you very much for that. With 4 reviewers. We have 12 open pull requests. A few of them are recent. We have a few that are older that still need to be looked at to decide whether or not we still want to deal with that or keep it, or if we've already resolved it or something to that effect. There were 2 issues closed by 2 people and 2 opened by 2 people, so net 0 change on issues on the core, leaving 194 open issues. There is a link to those in the notes doc. There are 7 active milestones. The important ones are the 5X ones, and the 17 issues not assigned to a milestone. We definitely want to take a look at those and make sure that we assign a milestone to them so that they are filed where they need to be filed and we know what to focus on. In the notes, there are download stats by board. Overall, for 5.0 Alpha 4, we had 3,510 downloads, and for our current stable, which is 4.1.0, we had 14,924 downloads. If you're interested in what the spread is on that, check out the notes. We also have download stats by language, which I will also not be reading. So with that, we will talk about the libraries. On the libraries, we had 210 pull requests merged by 12 authors. The others that I listed off earlier are contributors to the library, so thank you very much for that. And 7 reviewers. We currently have 36 open pull requests, with a number of them being fairly recent, but we definitely have some older ones that we need to go through and look at and see what we want to do with them. It's something that we are trying to work on, and we have done some things to facilitate that being easier and also more available to others to help out, which I'll talk about in a minute. We had 11 closed issues by 8 people and 7 open by 5 people for a we're net down, which is excellent. And we had 1 issue that we identified as a good first issue, so that's excellent. If you file any issues and you feel that they are a good first issue for a new incoming person, please label it that, and if you can't, let one of us know so we can. It's good to identify those because it makes it much easier for people to get started. We have a total of 146 open issues, and there is a link to those in the notes. It is circuitpython.org/contributing, which is new. That is the thing that we have done to facilitate better access to what's going on with the libraries. There are 3 sections on that page. One is PRs, one is open issues, and one is library infrastructure issues. And all 3 of those are amazing places to get started. You can go through the PRs and add a review if you have an opportunity to test something, or even if you don't have an opportunity to test something and you just take a look at the code and say, you know, okay, this looks good to me, or maybe you find a spelling error or something like that. You know, add a review. And the open issues is every issue on every library across the board, and it's currently filterable by label. So one of the things we need to do is go through and actually label all the library issues. So as well, if you are filing an issue on a library, please assign it a label, and if you are unsure what label to assign it, please ask and we can help you out with that. But the great thing is that circuitpython.org/contributing is now opening up all of this information to everyone. So we have a place to point people. So if people are looking to get started with CircuitPython and you're not really sure where to tell them to start, please tell them to start there. And we are absolutely willing to help out with getting started with getting GitHub if that's new to you as well, and that's the daunting part. We are here to help. We had 1 new library in the last 7 days, the MCP 9600, which was submitted by Dan Cogliano, so thank you very much for that, and a number of updated libraries that I won't read off. And that is the state of CircuitPython and the libraries. Next up is Hug Reports. Hug Reports is a chance to call people out for doing something good. This is something we nabbed from the internal Adafruit weekly meetings because it just doesn't happen enough, and we want the opportunity to recognize people for what they're doing. Hug Report, basically you just, if somebody did something that you would like to recognize them for, this is the time to let them know. And it will be a round robin. I'll start as an example. We'll go down the list alphabetically, loop back to the top. Again, if you're lurking, we will skip you. If you are text only, I will read it off alphabetically. And there are also notes in the document for people who are unable to attend the meeting, and I will read those off in alphabetical order as well. And with that, we will get started. The first one I have is to Carter for figuring out I had the cable backwards on my fingerprint sensor. It turns out that both ends of the cable plug into the sensor, and I plugged the wrong one in and cut off the wrong end. And so when trying to make it work, I was using the wrong set of wires because there are 6 and you only need 4. So fought with that for a couple hours before Carter finally said, hey, yours doesn't match mine. I think you have it backwards. And it worked immediately once we figured that out. So thank you very much for helping with that. Banging my head against that was frustrating. I want to give a hug report to the community helpers on Discord. It's a new role that we created not that long ago for people who are just helping out across the board in all the channels. to pretty much any questions on Discord, and it's really been working out. People have been doing very well, and a lot of people are receiving help. So thank you very much for that. I have a hug report for SUMMERSOFT and Justin for all the amazing work getting circuitpython.org/contributing going. SUMMERSOFT makes the data available, and Justin makes the UI happen. So all of my redesign requests have been implemented by these two, and it's been really great. So thank you for that. And lastly, to Dylan for updating all of the READMEs on all the libraries. That was a crazy run of PRs, 197, I believe. And now they're much clearer. So it's excellent that we got that done. And that is my hug reports. Kanger North is lurking, so next up is Maker Melissa.
Hello. Okay, so first of all, a hug report to you, Kattni, for helping with creating that PCB repo, or the PCB repos for the 1.14-inch display. One for Sedacious for helping me out with some SuperCon prep stuff. Hug report to Drew Festini for helping with some of the PWM stuff for Blinka, and just a group hug to everyone.
Excellent. Thanks.
Yeah.
Next up is Sedacious.
Howdy. So I've got two. One for SUMMERSOFT for helping me prototype the code that will be needed to move to GitHub Actions, or move all the SCP repos to GitHub Actions and off of Travis. I have another one for Dan for helping me with a debugging issue that came up in a support ticket. She just gave me some pointers on how to do that. So that's it. Thanks.
All right, excellent. Next up, I have some notes in the document from SUMMERSOFT, who is missing the meeting, day job conflict. Sedacious for the collab reviews merges on GitHub Actions work. And another one to Sedacious, EDNL, and Mad Bodger for the StarNix command discussion and tips that aided workflow automation. I've said too much. Wait for status. Next up is Stargirl.
Yeah, hi. So,
hello.
A hug to C. Grover for taking a look at my MIDI library. That was super nice. And also just generally being helpful about audio and MIDI stuff. And also to Dan H. for looking at my PRs. Super cool.
All right, excellent. Next up is Anne, who is text only.
Yep. Can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you.
I switched to the app, so hug report to Maker Melissa for looking at my code for e-ink displays. I have a new guide coming out in the next 24 hours to kind of help people go from 0 to e-ink in hopefully 5 to 10 minutes. I don't know, we'll see. And a general hug report to the community.
All right, excellent. Next, I have some notes from Brent, who says, anecdata for the Nina FW and ESP32 SPI work released their analog in-out implementation this past week, and a group hug to all. Carter is lurking. C. Grover, I have notes for, which is a group hug to the team and community. And next up is Charles.
I have just basically a group hug because I haven't been online for quite a while. But I've been reading the messages on CircuitPython, and it's been very helpful. I've run into some very helpful information. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, next up, let's see, Dave is lurking, I believe. So oh, I went too far. Dan is next.
Hi. So thanks to Scott for, just before he left on vacation, he submitted two BLE pull requests. One was for CircuitPython itself, and the other is for the main library. And I'm reviewing and testing those now. Thanks to Here Effect, Lucian just submitted a PWM route pull request, which I just reviewed and mostly said some stylistic things. But it's great we have PWM out working in STM32F4 now, and he's going back to working on UART, I think, which is a challenge because the HAL layer is not very good. So thanks for working on that. Thanks to THEA Codes for several pull requests, which were cleaning up a bunch of issues, which is great, and helping out on some reviews. Thank you for jumping in for reviewing with both. That's really great. Thanks to Jeff Epler, who had a simple pull request that got rid of some thread tests, which we never needed in any case, and had caused random crashes during the build process. And he was right. We should have just gotten rid of them. So he did that. He took the initiative and got rid of that. And thanks to Ed Spark. As was mentioned, we have yet another SparkFun board added to or more than one maybe, added to the list of boards that run CircuitPython. That's great.
Excellent. Thank you. Next up is Hierophect.
So big thanks to Dan for doing the reviews of, helping out with the reviews of the UART last week and PWM this week. And generally just answering a lot of questions that I've been running into, mostly about just kind of style and kind of best practice across CircuitPython. Also, just want to mention, I've also noticed THEA Codes answering a bunch of questions, so that's really cool. And hoping to all help out in the community and see more people chipping in with some newcomers on CircuitPython. It's always cool to see that, so wanted to do a shout out there. So yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. Next, I have some notes from Jepler. Group hug, especially to those who are filing and reviewing PRs, and anyone who has done a Hacktoberfest PR. You are awesome, and we want to see you the rest of the year, too. And that is Hug Reports. Thanks, everyone. Next up is Status Updates. Status Updates is an opportunity for all of us to sync up on what we've been doing over the last week and what we will be doing over the next week. Take a couple minutes, talk about what your project is, or whatever it is you're up to. And it doesn't have to be CircuitPython related. We love to know what everyone in the community is doing regardless. And this is also held in a round robin, and we'll go down the list just like we did and give everyone a chance who would like to let us know what's going on to participate. I will go ahead and get started. So last week, I finished the MCP 9600 driver. As I mentioned, that was submitted by a community member. The base driver was submitted by Dan Cogliano, but there were a lot of other features to the chip that were not implemented, and I had previously written a driver for it, so we I combined the two and got it going and got the alert features done. So now there's 4 alert pins on that chip, and you can configure 4 different alert ranges for temperature, and it's pretty neat. It's I2C. It's one of the few I2C thermocouple amplifiers available, as far as I understand it. Got it up on PyPI. Turns out it doesn't work on Raspberry Pi, but we will revisit that at some point. It's probably a weird I2C issue, but it's not worth dealing with at the moment. Reviewed and merged all of Dylan's 197 PRs to update the READMEs. We're back to testing CircuitPython hardware on Raspberry Pi using Blinka, our wrapper library that allows for using CircuitPython libraries on Linux. And so I tested and updated the fingerprint sensor guide. There's still a little bit left to do on that, but got that updated with Python usage. Tested the MPR121 shield on CircuitPython. Doesn't work on M4, does work on M0, has to do with pull-ups. This is an older shield, and it won't be updated because the chip has been discontinued. So if you are looking to use that, use an M0 Metro with it. We finalized CircuitPython.org/contributing, moved it to a main link, and it's now a link at the top of the page, separate from libraries where it was sort of buried before. And now that is updated daily, so it's a constant valid set of information on the libraries, worth taking a look if you are interested in contributing. Started a guide for the new stemma relay we have. Troubleshot some Circuit Playground Bluefruit guide code. Turns out 2 pieces of code were never updated to work with the Circuit Playground Bluefruit and CircuitPython 5.0. Not sure how those got missed, but they did. So that was answering a forum post, and at that point, need to put in PRs for both of those pieces of code. And then we, in the Raspberry Python world, tried to do UART with the BNO055. It was never implemented on CircuitPython. I filed an issue, and that will be hopefully implemented soon. Most chips can't do both I2C and UART sometimes works better on things like Raspberry Pi, so having that available is good, since it is possible to use with the chip. This week, I need to put in that PR for the 2 examples that were not updated. I need to file an issue for UART on the AS7262, which is another chip that also has UART capabilities, but they were never implemented in CircuitPython. Finish the stemma relay guide, finish updating the fingerprint guide. I need to test the TTL serial camera we have on Raspberry Pi with UART, update the guide if it's successful with Python usage, test the MPR 121 hat on Raspberry Pi with Blinka to see if that works, and update the guide there if that does. We now have a USB-C micro LiPo charger, and we need to update the micro LiPo guide with that charger because it covers all the other chargers we have, and so we want to have that in the guide. And then continuing on with more Raspberry Python updates, there are a number of more chips that we haven't gotten to, and we are slowly going through them while other things pop up and happen as well. And today is Library Monday, which I didn't put in the notes, but usually on Mondays is when I do a quick sweep to make sure that we're keeping on top of everything, take care of any PRs that I can, take care of any issues, and also do everything that goes with running this meeting. And that is my status update, which means next up is Maker Melissa.
Hello. Okay, so last week I added some more EPD, the e-paper display guide that I thought was finished, but it is now. I started and finished a 1.14-inch TFT product guide. I added some pages to the mini Pi TFT guide. I wrote a few blog posts to help Anna out with some e-paper display stuff. I finished the CircuitPython pages for a Nokia display guide, and I started on the Python pages for that guide. I updated a couple boards on the CircuitPython.org website, and I added an optimization to the RA8875 Arduino library. And next week, this week really, I'm going to finish up the Nokia display guide, and then I'm going to update the Sharp display guide with CircuitPython and Python pages, which is going to mostly be the same kind of content as the Nokia guide. I'm going to work on implementing bitminging NeoPixels for Blinka, and if time allows, I'll work on updating LED matrix and segment guides. And that's it.
Excellent. Thank you. Next up is Sedacious.
Yeah. So last week I worked on the LSM303 AGR tester and test code. I also archived the old Arduino library for said, actually for the older sensor, the LSM303 DLH. So archived that, moved all of the open tickets and pull requests open or closed as necessary. Let's see, I updated the guide for the LSM 303 to use the new libraries. Then I worked with SUMMERSOFT on moving, starting the work to move all the CircuitPython repos over to GitHub Actions. He mainly did all the work, and I just kind of encouraged and helped him along. So what else did I do? I assembled the new LPS33 pressure sensor board and tested it out. I think I even showed it off on Show and Tell. So that should be coming out soon. Everything worked fine. I just submitted a small change to move some headers around. And I assembled the LSM60 SOX, which is a IMU. I just assembled it, smoke checked it. There was no smoke, so I'll work more on that later. In personal projects, I made a lot of progress over the weekend, reverse engineering the droid I got from the Droid Depot. So I will post some stuff about that in just a minute. So this week, more work, testing out the GitHub Actions changes. I'm going to start testing it with some real repositories and see how that works, and then do some initial tests. That's how we're going to approach doing all of the repos. I'll also be working on probably more testing for the LSM60 SOX, probably guide work for the LSM 303 AGR and MPU 6050. I have some SuperCon prep I need to do, and I'm hoping this week to finish sketching out the schematic for the droid and get some motors turning, hopefully. And there's calling it an exploit's a bit of a stretch, but there's a way to get code off of NRF 51822's bypassing the code protection. So I'm going to test that out on some personal code, and then hopefully next time I have a droid with proper flash on it, I can pull the flash without erasing it first. So that'll be fun. And I will post interesting stuff in the chat. Thanks. Bye.
Excellent. Thank you. Next up, I have some notes from SUMMERSOFT. Last week, library GitHub Actions CI migration. Worked with Sedacious on getting a good template for the Actions workflows. They've been highly automated to reduce manual steps during migration, which will also aid maintenance. Git patchable. I think we're 99.999% finished. If you like YAML and CI and or helping, here is a link in the document. Started reviewing planning on a few non-standard workflows, basically the Adafruit and community bundles. Started reviewing planning transitions to help the two Travis cron jobs, Adabot, which bundles updates, releases, and daily reports, and CircuitPython.org, which is the libraries and contributing page data. Found a pending PR on Raspberry Pi WS281X-Python that allows it to be installed on non-Raspbian Raspberry Pi. That Rosie Pi hurdle can now be cleared. Non-CircuitPython finally found a new case for the desktop. The 17-year-old case that had a decibel range of an F18 has been handed down to the non-techie kiddo with leftover components. New case is so quiet. It's weird. This week, keep pushing on Actions migration, and whatever comes up is suggested or I stumble upon. And next up is Stargirl.
Yeah, hey, so last week I sent my first PRs to CircuitPython to fix up some docs around the real-time clock and to fix a weird issue with the PWM duty cycle. I also released yet another library. I promise this is my last library for a while. It's called Small MIDI, and it's a super slimmed down MIDI library. And then I immediately ran into some fun MIDI buffer issues and ended up filing an issue on CircuitPython about that. So that was fun. This week I'm pretty heads down on writing software and figuring out some manufacturing details for my Eurorack module. I realized during the chat that some people don't know who I am, so I'm THEA. And you can follow me on Twitter, and I post a lot of updates about my Eurorack stuff on there, so feel free to do that. And then, yeah, I'm mostly getting ready for my SuperCon talk, which I am not nervous about at all. I promise. So yeah, that'll be fun.
I totally understand. Good luck.
Thank you.
All right, next up is Anne.
Hello. As I said earlier, I'm working on a kind of a simple e-ink guide for text and graphics. And you'll see that soon with CircuitPython. And earlier, right at the beginning of the chat above Phil's stuff, I posted some links of stuff that I help maintain. First of all is the, let's see, we have CircuitPython on Reddit. If you go to the subreddit CircuitPython, I post all of the Python news there, and it's open for everyone to contribute. Second is the awesome CircuitPython list. It's a one-pager that consists of resources we have for CircuitPython, and it's in GitHub, so you can do pull requests and let us know if you find great resources that we've overlooked. And I've got to update that today for the new Nano that Lady Ada got working over the weekend. And finally, as Phil said, the Python on Microcontrollers newsletter is going out tomorrow. If you want to subscribe, you can go to adafruitdaily.com, and we hope that our newsletter is giving you the information you need. That's also on GitHub, so you can post your material, and we will look to incorporate it into the newsletter. And we love feedback. If you think we should be doing things differently, just pop it as an issue. It's not quite an issue, but it's more of a comment on how we're doing things, and we'd love to read it. That's it for me.
Thanks, Anne. All right, next up I have some notes from Brent. Whoa, it's November already. The IoT Monthly for November comes out this Friday. Sign up over at adafruitdaily.com. Exam proposal season for me won't be online often this week or next. Tagging me on GitHub will help me prioritize an issue if you see one. Doing a fun proposal project for a course about silent attacks on energy distribution systems via compromised IoT hubs in residential buildings, raising your thermostat a little. And then we're going to be mathematically modeling the effects. And then working on non-CircuitPython projects for Adafruit right now, looking at mid-November as a finish update. Carter is lurking, and I have some notes from C. Grover, who says, learning to use a laser cutter to fabricate Eurorack and project enclosure front panels from KiCad PCB drawings. Looking forward to experimenting with a variety of clear, translucent, and bendable materials. Latest revision of the Stringcar M0 Express board will arrive soon. Until then, working on wrapping up the dual 12-bit and dual 16-bit 10-volt Stemma DAC Euro panels and testing the Stringcar M4 main expansion board design. The removable expansion board will house an SD card, Stemma QT jack, and SWD connector, features that won't be used when racing, but occasionally when characterizing motor-battery combinations and when experimenting with sensors. And there is a picture of the Stringcar M4 Express and the expansion module in the notes. And next up is Charles. Charles, do you have a status update that you'd like to do? All right, we'll circle back if Charles decides he wants to do a status update. We will come back. Next up is Dan. And I am beginning to think that my internet connection has failed. All right. Am I back?
Yep.
Yes, you are.
Okay, that was a network connection fail, which was not what happened last week. That's new.
Oh, I had that happen a couple of times last week.
All right, Charles, do you have a status update?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No worries, not at all. That's absolutely fine. I'm gonna take a time code anyway, and that means next up is Dan.
Okay, so I've done a bunch of things. So as I mentioned, Scott submitted some PRs for about BLE just before he went on vacation, and I reviewed the CircuitPython one, which has is a lot of rearrangement and but not so much raw code change underneath, except that he's added stuff to make it possible to do not only CircuitPython BLE connections, but also kind of lower level BLE connections like for editing and the REPL, so that it handles both of those cases. So that's very good. And then also I'm reviewing the library one, which has more new stuff in it and trying to get the examples to work. So I'm in the midst of that right now. And I just had a discussion. He took some time out from his vacation an hour ago or so to talk to me about that. So I'm going to continue working on that. I've had a cold for the past few days, so I haven't done things as hard. I've just been working on board definitions. As Lady Ada worked with Lady Ada, we added the Arduino Nano 33 BLE board, which is a NRF 52840 board. It has some peculiarities, like it has some onboard peripherals that you can turn on and off by toggling various pins. But also, if you fail to turn them off, turn them on, and then try to use those pins, sometimes it'll hang up. So we've got to fix that problem. And there's the top secret, not out yet, don't ask, itsy bitsy NRF 52840, but I think that describes what it is, and we have a board definition for that. It's the first NRF 52840 board that we have that has a dot star on board instead of a NeoPixel, and it turned out there was a flaw in the way we do BitBang IO SPI, which made it not work on the that board. But after some head scratching, it's now working, and we fixed the latent underlying bug in BitBang IO SPI. And as you can see, for the past 15 minutes, I've just been going through some PRs while I wait for my turn. Okay.
All right, excellent, thank you. And we have some lurkers, so next up is Hierophect.
Hey, hello. So this past week, I took a break from UART, which was just kind of driving me nuts, to work on PWM out, which generally came together pretty quickly. Wanted to make sure that there was a number of different kind of conditions that has to deal with in the same way that the Atmel boards needs to deal with that. So there's a good amount of volume to it, but ultimately it did seem to wrap up pretty great, or pretty efficiently. So Dan has just done a big review of that just now, most of which is style stuff that should be able to get resolved quickly. So hopefully that'll be able to be submitted today or tomorrow. And between working on that, I'm also digging back into UART, which I found some new resources on to suggest why the previous interrupt system was encountering so many sort of obscure issues. So hopefully using some of those tips and kind of collision avoidance routines, I should be able to get UART back on track and submit that danged module once and for all. Beyond that, I will also hopefully be putting in some new board definitions for the Meow Meow and some other boards that have come my way to try and hit that end of year 100 board milestone. I think is exciting. So yeah, looking forward to this week of work.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And that is status updates. Thank you, everyone. Next up is In the Weeds. However, I don't see any topics. If anybody has anything, last call for In the Weeds. weeds. Basically, this is more long-form discussions, questions you have, something that didn't fit into status updates, something that status updates made you think of, any sort of thing like that. But we won't wait too long, so nobody has in the weeds. All right, excellent. Which means it is time to wrap up. This has been the CircuitPython Weekly for October 28th, 2019. Again, we are here every Monday on Discord in the CircuitPython voice channel. We have this meeting every Monday, and if it's ever on a different day, we'll let you know. Everyone is welcome to attend. This is recorded and will be available on both YouTube and many podcast services once posted. So there is a notes document that is posted to GitHub and linked in the YouTube video. So if you're more interested in reading notes, or you want to scan through and find the interesting things and then only watch that part, the notes document is available with time codes. So you can skip to what you want to skip to. And with that, I want to thank everyone who participated, everyone who lurked, everyone who is part of this community. Thank you, all of you, for being a part of this amazing thing. And we will see you next week. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Katney.
Thanks,
Thank you,
folks.
everybody.
Have a good week, everyone.